The massive doors of the throne room opened with a sound like breaking glass. Captain Lee Jin-ho walked forward, his boots clicking against the crystal floor. Behind him followed 3 other humans from Earth's diplomatic team. Above them, the ceiling stretched high into darkness, filled with floating lights that moved like living stars. Jin-ho had seen many alien species during his years as a soldier, but the Valerians still made him feel small. They stood twice as tall as any human, with skin that looked like liquid silver and forearms that moved with perfect grace. Their eyes were deep violet, and when they looked at him, he felt like they could see straight through his soul. The throne room was packed with Valerian nobles. They wore robes that seemed to be made of light itself and jewelry that hummed with soft music. All of them were watching the humans with expressions of amusement, like adults watching children try to do something grown up. At the center of it all sat the throne. It was carved from a single massive crystal that pulsed with inner light. But Jin-ho's attention was not on the throne. It was on the figure standing beside it. Princess Kalavex was beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful. Her silver skin was marked with intricate patterns that shifted color as she moved. Her forearms were adorned with bracelets that looked like captured lightning. When she smiled, Jin-ho saw teeth that were too sharp and too white. "So," the princess said, her voice like music played on crystal bells, "these are the famous humans, the ones who think they can fight the Valerian Empire." The other humans in Jin-ho's group shifted nervously. Ambassador Kim Woo-jin cleared his throat. "Your Highness, we come seeking terms for peace. Earth is willing to negotiate." Princess Kala laughed. The sound echoed through the throne room, and the other Valerians joined in. It was not a pleasant sound. "Peace," she said. "You mistake me, little creatures. You are not here to negotiate. You are here to surrender." Jin-ho kept his face blank, but inside his chest, anger burned like fire. He remembered the videos from the attack on Luna Colony. 30,000 people turned to ash in seconds, he remembered. Getting the message about his sister Mina, who had been visiting friends on Mars when the Valerians came. There had not been enough left of the city to find bodies. "Your species is interesting," Princess Kala continued, beginning to walk in a slow circle around the human delegation. "You fight like animals. No strategy, no elegance, just fury and desperation. It would be amusing if it were not so pathetic." Stopped in front of Jin-ho. Up close, he could see that her violet eyes held flecks of gold that swirled like tiny galaxies. "You," she said, pointing one of her 4 hands at him. "You are their soldier, are you not? I can smell the violence on." "You, Captain Lee Jin-ho, Earth Defense Force," he replied. "Captain," she repeated, tasting the word. "Tell me, Captain, how many of my people have you killed?" "Not enough," Jin-ho said quietly. The throne room fell silent. Even the floating lights seemed too dim. Princess Kala's smile grew wider. "Honest. I appreciate that." She began walking around him again. "You have scars, Captain. Many scars. Your face, your hands. Tell me, do human females find scars attractive?" Jin-ho did not answer. "I ask because I have been thinking," the princess continued. "Your species will soon be extinct. That is certain. But perhaps some of you might serve a purpose before that happens." She stopped directly in front of him again. With one of her hands, she reached out and touched the scar that ran from his left ear to his jaw. Her skin was cold. "You're not entirely ugly for a primitive creature," she said, "and you have a certain savage charm." "Yes, I think you will do nicely." "Do for what?" Ambassador Kim asked, though his voice shook. Princess Kala's smile became predatory. "I have decided that this one will become my mate. My husband, as you humans say, a pet warrior to amuse my court." The throne room erupted in laughter again. Valerians clapped their 4 hands together in applause. Some made comments in their musical language that needed no translation. "Think of it as an honor, little human," the princess said to Jin-ho. "You will be the first of your species to join a noble Valerian house. Of course, you will be more of a curiosity than a true partner, but still, it is better than the alternative." "And what is the alternative?" Jin-ho asked. "Death," she said. Simply for you, and for every living thing on your miserable little planet. Ginho felt his hands clench into fists. Every instinct told him to fight. He had killed Valerians before, in the battles above Europa and in the tunnels under Titan Station. He was fast, and he was skilled, and he had nothing left to lose. But he also had orders. "I am honored by your offer, Your Highness," he said. Forcing his voice to remain steady, the words tasted like poison in his mouth, but he said them anyway. Behind him, he heard Ambassador Kim let out a small sigh of relief. "Excellent," Princess Kala said, clapping all four hands together. "It is decided then. We will hold the ceremony tomorrow. Something simple, of course. I would not want to waste too much pageantry on a human." She turned to address the court. "Let it be known that Princess Kalavex has taken a human mate. Let the galaxy see how merciful the Valerian Empire can be to lesser species who submit properly." The nobles applauded again. Some bowed deeply to their princess. "Take him to the guest quarters," she commanded 2 guards. "Clean him up and find him proper clothing. I cannot have my new husband looking like a refugee." As the guards moved toward him, Jinho caught Ambassador Kim's eye. The older man nodded slightly. Everything was going according to plan, but as they led him away from the throne room, Ginho heard Princess Kala call out behind him. "Oh, and Captain," she said, her voice sweet as poisoned honey, "do try not to disappoint me. I have such high expectations for our wedding night." The laughter of the Valerian court followed him down the crystal corridors, but Jinho did not look back. He had work to do. 3 billion humans were counting on him to play this role perfectly. Soon, the Valerians would learn that Earth's children were not the broken primitives they believed them to be. Soon, but not yet. For now, he would be the princess's pet warrior, and he would make her believe she had one. 3 weeks had passed since Captain Lee Jinho became Princess Kalavex's unwilling husband. 3 weeks of playing the part of a broken human warrior. Defeated and tamed by superior alien power, every morning he woke in chambers that were beautiful and cold. The walls were made of the same crystal as the throne room, but here they showed images of distant stars and alien worlds. Golden cage, his grandfather would have called it. Still a cage today, started like all the others. 2 Valerian servants entered his room without knocking. They never knocked. Pets did not deserve such courtesy. "The princess requires your presence in the combat arena," one of them said in broken human language. "You will demonstrate your primitive fighting techniques. For the entertainment of visiting nobles." Ginho nodded and followed them through the corridors. Along the way, other Valerians stopped to stare at him. Some pointed with their 4 hands and whispered among themselves. Others simply watched with the same expression people might use when looking at an interesting animal in a zoo. The combat arena was a circular room with walls of clear crystal. Dozens of Valerian nobles sat in floating chairs that drifted around the room like lazy birds. In the center of the floor, training drones waited for him. They looked like metal spiders with glowing red eyes. Princess Kala sat on a throne that had been brought specially for the occasion. She wore a gown that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, and her violet eyes sparkled with amusement. "My dear husband," she called out as he entered. "Come, show our guests how humans fight when they are desperate." The nobles laughed.
Dingo!
Had heard that laugh many times now. It was the sound wealthy people made when they watched something they found both amusing and slightly disgusting. "Begin," the princess commanded. The first drone attacked immediately. Its metal legs moved faster than human eyes could follow, but Jinho had fought these machines before. He rolled to the side, came up with a piece of broken crystal from the floor, and drove it through the drone's central processor. The second drone was smarter. It circled him, looking for an opening. Ginho waited, patient as a hunting cat, then struck when it committed to an attack. His fist crushed its optical sensors, and it crashed to the floor in a shower of sparks. The nobles applauded politely. To them, it was a mildly entertaining display of animal cunning. "Excellent," Princess Kala said. "You may clean yourself and return to your quarters." Gas. As Jinho left the arena, wiping drone fluid from his hands, he passed a familiar face in the corridor. Ambassador Yoon Dae-ho walked with a small group of other humans, all wearing the simple gray robes that marked them as diplomatic prisoners. Their eyes met for just a moment. Dae-ho's face was carefully blank, but his left hand tapped against his leg in a pattern Ginho recognized. Emergency signal. Important news. That evening, as always, Princess Kala summoned him to dine with her in her private chambers. The room was decorated with trophies from a dozen conquered worlds, crystals from the Centauri system, metal sculptures from the vegan colonies, and in one corner, a small piece of twisted steel that had once been part of Luna Station, you see. "Distracted tonight, my pet," the princess said as they ate. The food was strange but not unpleasant. Everything the Valerians made was beautiful, even their meals. "I was thinking about home," Jinho replied. "Home?" She laughed. "You have no home. Earth belongs to the Empire now. Your people exist only because I allow it. Of course, Your Highness." She studied his face with those violet eyes. Sometimes Jinho wondered how much she really saw and how much she chose to ignore because the truth would be inconvenient. "Tell me about human mating customs," she said suddenly. "In your culture, how do males court females?" Court caught him off guard. "Why do you want to know?" Curiosity. "You are my husband, after all, even if it is only a political arrangement. I should understand my pet's natural behaviors." Jinho thought about his sister Mina, who had been planning her wedding when the Valerians came. She had spent months choosing flowers, worrying about the guest list, dreaming about her future with the man she loved. "Human marriages are usually based on love," he said quietly. "Two people who choose to be together because they care about each other." "How quaint," the princess said, "and primitive." "Among Valerians, marriage is about improving bloodlines and strengthening political alliances. Emotion is a weakness that leads to poor decisions." Before Jinho could respond, one of the princess's advisors entered the room. The alien whispered something in the musical Valerian language. Princess Kala's expression grew pleased. "Wonderful news, my dear husband," she said, turning back to him. "The fleet will be departing tomorrow for a new Sol colony, another human settlement that has refused to surrender properly." Ginho felt ice form in his stomach. New Sol was home to 2 million people. Many of them were refugees from other worlds. The Valerians had already destroyed. "I thought we might make it a special occasion," the princess continued, cutting into her meal with delicate precision. "You can watch from the observation deck as we teach your species another lesson about defying the Empire. Consider it an educational experience." "How many people live on New Sol?" Jinho asked. "Does it matter?" "They are all rebels who chose death over submission, just like the others." She said it so casually, as if discussing the weather.
What?
2 million.
Human lives meant nothing to her. They were numbers on a report, insects to be swept away. "You will enjoy the spectacle," she continued. "Our weapons are quite beautiful when they work. The entire planet will glow like a small sun for several minutes before it cools into glass." That night, alone in his chambers, Ginho sat in meditation, position on the crystal floor. To any watching security systems, he appeared to be sleeping. But his mind was active, reaching out through techniques his grandfather had taught him years ago. The rhythmic tapping he made with his fingers against the floor was not random. It was an ancient Korean drumming pattern, one that had been used to send messages across mountains in the old days. Now it sent a different kind of message. Through the ship's hull and into the void of space. 3 short taps, followed by 2 long ones, then a pause. Again and again, hour after hour. To the Valerians, it was just the restless movements of a sleeping human. But in the darkness between the stars, other humans were listening. Commander Kim Hannah received the signal on her stealth ship, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid. Captain No Subin picked it up on the defense station concealed inside New Sol's smallest moon. All across the system, Earth's children heard their strongest warriors call. The message was simple. The enemy comes at dawn. Be ready. Tomorrow, Princess Kala would learn that humans were capable of more than desperate animal fury. Tomorrow, she would discover what happened when Earth's children had time to prepare. But tonight, Ginho continued his careful deception. Tonight he was still the princess's pet warrior, broken and harmless. The greatest performance of his life was almost over. The Valerian fleet moved through space like a school of silver fish, their ships gleaming against the black void. Princess Kala stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching the planet New Sol grow larger in the viewing window. Her, Captain Li Jin-ho, waited in silence. Beautiful, is it not? The princess said, gesturing toward the blue and green world with two of her four hands. Your species always chooses such lovely planets to infest. It will be almost sad to destroy such beauty. New Sol hung in space like a jewel. Jin-ho could see the lights of cities on the night side, millions of people going about their lives. Children playing, families eating dinner, lovers walking under alien stars. All of them unaware that death approached in ships of crystal and metal. The colony has 8 major cities, Princess Kala continued, reading from a holographic display that floated beside her. Population approximately 2 million. They have refused our demands for surrender 17 times. Such stubbornness. Round them, other Valerian nobles had gathered to watch the show. They wore their finest robes and jewelry, as if attending a celebration. Some had brought refreshments. To them, the destruction of a human world was entertainment. Tell me, husband, the princess said, turning to look at Jin-ho with those violet eyes, are you not concerned for your people down there? Jin-ho stood perfectly still. His hands were clasped behind his back, his face calm as still water. I am. Whatever you wish me to be, your highness. Such obedience, she purred. But surely you must feel something. Fear, anger, sadness, for the children who will die? I feel what serves the empire, Jin-ho replied. Princess Kala laughed, but there was something uncertain in the sound. For weeks, she had been trying to break through his calm exterior. She wanted to see him rage, to beg, to show the desperation she expected from a defeated enemy. Instead, he remained as peaceful as a monk in meditation. You are either very wise or very broken, she said finally. I have not decided which. The fleet's commander, Admiral Vekvos, approached with a formal bow. His forearms moved in the ritual patterns of military respect. Your Highness, we have achieved optimal firing position. The planet's defenses are minimal. A few orbital platforms, some fighter craft. It's nothing that will delay us for more than a few minutes. Excellent. The princess replied, Begin the demonstration. Target the largest city first. I want them to see what defiance costs. The admiral bowed again and moved to his command station. Around the observation deck, the Valerian nobles pressed closer to the viewing windows. Eager for the spectacle to begin, Jin-ho watched the admiral work, noting the positions of the key officers, the layout of the command systems. Everything he had learned during his weeks aboard the ship would soon prove useful. The first volley will be fired in 60 seconds, Admiral Voss announced. All ships report ready to engage. Princess Kala moved to stand beside Jin-ho. Carefully, my pet. This is what happens to species that do not know their place in the galaxy. Perhaps you will write songs about this moment to remind future humans of the price of rebellion. I will remember, Jin-ho said quietly. 30 seconds to firing, the admiral called out. On the tactical display, Jin-ho could see the Valerian fleet spreading into attack formation. 300 ships, each one capable of turning a continent into glass. It was the largest force the Empire had ever assembled for a single target. 15 seconds. The princess gripped the railing with all 4 hands, leaning forward in anticipation. 10 seconds. All weapons charged and ready. Jin-ho closed his eyes and began to breathe in the pattern his grandfather had taught him, slow and deep, feeling the energy flow through his body like a river of calm fire. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. Wait, Princess Kala said suddenly. Something in Jin-ho's expression had caught her attention. Admiral, hold your fire. She turned to study her human husband more closely. His face was perfectly serene, but there was something in his stillness that made her nervous. It was not the calm of a broken spirit. It was the calm of someone who knew a secret. You are not afraid, she said, and it was not a question. No, Jin-ho replied, opening his eyes to meet her gaze. I am not afraid. Why? Your people are about to die. Your colony will be destroyed. Why do you show no emotion?
For
The first time in weeks, Jinho smiled. It was a small smile, sad but genuine. Your Highness, he said softly, did you know that humans have been fighting wars for over 10,000 years? The question seemed to surprise her. What does that matter? We have fought with sticks and stones. We have fought with swords and arrows. We have fought with guns and bombs and nuclear fire. We have mastered every form of combat that exists. Princess Kala's violet eyes narrowed. Around them, the other nobles had stopped chattering and were listening to the strange human's words. But our greatest weapon, Jinho continued, is not any tool or technology. Our greatest weapon is our ability to adapt, to learn, to sacrifice. Everything for the protection of those we love. Pretty words, the princess said, but her voice had lost some of its confidence. They will not stop our weapons. No, Jinho agreed. But knowledge will. Before she could ask what he meant, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The tactical display erupted in flashing red lights and warning symbols. Admiral Princess Kala snapped.
Ow.
What is happening? Admiral Voss was staring at his instruments. In confusion, Your Highness, I do not understand. The planet's defenses are activating. But according to our intelligence, they should not have any significant weapons. On the main viewing screen, New Sol was transforming before their eyes. What had looked like a peaceful colony world was revealing hidden defense platforms that rose from the ocean floors. Massive weapon arrays emerged from inside mountains. Fighter squadrons launched from concealed bases. Impossible, the princess breathed. Our scouts reported minimal defenses. Your scouts saw what we wanted them to see, Jinho said calmly. She spun to face him, and for the first time since he had known her, there was fear in those violet eyes. What did you do? She demanded. Nothing, Jinho replied. I simply played. My part in a much larger plan. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in clear human language, broadcast on all frequencies. Attention, Valerian Fleet. This is Fleet Admiral No Suban, commanding the New Sol Defense Force. You have entered human space with hostile intent. Surrender now, or face the consequences. Princess Kala staggered backward as if she had been struck. That is impossible. We destroyed your fleets. We crushed your defenses. How do you have ships? Jinho's smile grew wider. Destroyed what? We allowed you to destroy. The ships you killed were volunteers who sacrificed themselves to sell the deception. Every battle you won was planned to make you overconfident. On the tactical display, more human ships were appearing. Sleek vessels that had been hidden in asteroid fields, camouflage stations that had been silent for months, fighters emerging. From the shadows of moons, you have been studying us for 3 years, the princess whispered. But we have been studying you for just as long. Longer, Jinho corrected. Do you remember Captain Lee Harry, who died in the explosion at Titan Station? She did not die. She's been feeding us intelligence about your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. The revelation hit Princess Kala like a physical blow. The humans had not been desperately seeking surrender. They had been buying time. Time to learn, to plan, to prepare the perfect trap. And she had helped them by keeping their greatest warrior close. Letting him observe everything, Admiral Voss turned from his command station, his face pale with shock. Your Highness, we are. Receiving surrender demands from the human fleet, they are. They are asking us to power down our weapons and prepare to be boarded. For a moment, the observation deck was completely silent. Then Princess Kala began to laugh. It was not the musical laughter of before, but something harsh and bitter. Clever, she admitted, looking at Jinho with new respect. Very clever. You made me believe I had tamed you when all along you were the one setting the trap. The hunt is not over yet, Jinho replied. But now you know what it feels like to be the prey. The space around New Sol erupted into chaos. What had been a peaceful star system moments before was now filled with the thunder of war. Human ships emerged from hiding places that should have been impossible to conceal. Asteroid mining stations revealed themselves as heavily armed fortresses. The planet's moons opened like flowers. releasing swarms of fighter craft. Princess Kala gripped the railing of the observation deck as her flagship shuddered under the impact of human weapons. Around her, Valerian nobles who had come to watch a massacre were now witnessing their own fleet's destruction. "How?" she demanded, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. "How did you hide so many ships?" Captain Li Jinho stood calmly beside her, no longer the submissive pet she had believed him to be. His posture was straight, his eyes alert. This was the man who had earned his rank in the fires of actual combat. "We learned from you," he said. "Simply every battle we lost taught us something new. Every defeat showed us your weaknesses." On the main screen, a human battleship that had been disguised as a dead Hulk came to life. Its engines blazed blue fire as it accelerated toward a Valerian cruiser. The alien ship tried to turn away, but it was too late. The human vessel struck it amidships, tearing through crystal armor like paper. "Admiral Voss," Princess Kala called out, her voice cracking slightly. "Status report." The Admiral's forehands moved frantically over his control panels. "We have lost 37 ships in the first wave. The humans are using some kind of jamming technology. Our telepathic coordination is being disrupted." Jinho's smile grew wider. "That would be my contribution to the plan." Princess Kala turned to stare at him. "What do you mean?" "For weeks I have been studying your telepathic abilities, learning how they work, finding their weaknesses. Did you think those meditation sessions in my quarters were just for show?" As if to demonstrate his point, Jinho closed his eyes and began to breathe in the same pattern he had used during those quiet hours. But this time, instead of sending secret messages, he was doing something else. Princess Kala gasped and staggered backward. A sharp pain lanced through her mind like someone driving hot needles into her brain. Around the observation deck, other Valerians cried out in similar agony. "It's possible," she whispered, clutching her head with all four hands. "You are just a primitive species. You have no telepathic abilities." "We do not," Jinho agreed, maintaining his focused breathing. "But we understand electromagnetic frequencies. We know how to disrupt neural pathways. Your grandfather taught me techniques that are 10,000 years old, but they work perfectly against alien minds." The electromagnetic pulse that Jinho was generating spread through the Valerian fleet like a virus. Ship after ship lost coordination as their telepathic officers found themselves cut off from each other. Formation flying became impossible. Elegant dance of Valerian naval tactics collapsed into confusion. On the tactical display, the human advantage became clear. While the Valerian ships floundered in isolation, the human fleet moved with mechanical precision. Every ship knew its role. Every pilot understood the plan. Wing Commander Ominje led his fighter squadron through the gap in the Valerian lines. His small craft danced between the massive alien ships, striking at weapon systems and engine pods. Behind him, Squadron Leader Park Sun-woo coordinated the bomber wings, targeting the command vessels. "Your Highness," Admiral Voss called out, desperation clear in his voice. "The flagship of the human fleet is approaching. They are demanding our surrender." Princess Kala forced herself to stand upright despite the pain in her head. "We are the Valerian Empire. We do not surrender to animals." "Then you will die like animals," said a new voice. Everyone on the observation deck turned to see a figure standing in the doorway. It was a human woman in the uniform of Earth Defense Force. She was tall and lean, with short black hair and eyes like winter ice. In her hands, she carried a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. "Captain Lee Harry Jinho," said with obvious relief. "I wondered when you would arrive." "Sorry I am late, brother," Harry replied with a slight smile. "I had to deal with some guards on the way here." Princess Kala stared at the newcomer in shock. "You are supposed to be dead." Saw the explosion at Titan Station. "You saw what we wanted you to see," Harry said calmly. "A few tons of scrap metal and some chemical explosives. Not difficult to fake, once we learned your scanning techniques." Her more humans entered the observation deck. Master Sergeant Lim Gyeonho and his boarding team moved with the fluid grace of experienced fighters. Each one carried weapons designed specifically to fight Valerians. The ship is secure, Qianho reported to the two captains. Resistance was minimal. Apparently most of their warriors are not used to fighting without telepathic coordination. Psst. Kala looked around the room at the faces of her captors. These were not the broken primitives she had expected. These were soldiers who had planned and trained for this moment. Professionals who understood war in ways the Valerians had never imagined. "You planned all of this," she said, and her voice was filled with a mixture of anger and admiration. "Surrender negotiations? The marriage proposal? Everything." "Every word," Ginho confirmed. "We needed someone inside your fleet. Someone who could study your tactics and find your weaknesses. You made it easy by demanding a husband." "But why?" she asked. "Why go to such lengths? Hey, why not simply fight us? Directly?" Jinho's expression grew serious. "It's because we could not win that way. Your technology is superior. Ships are faster and stronger. In a direct confrontation, humanity would lose." "Then how are you winning now?" "Because technology is not everything," Captain Harry said, stepping forward. "You have better ships, but we have better strategy. You have stronger weapons, but we have stronger will. Most importantly, you underestimated us. Not a main viewing screen." The battle was clearly turning in humanity's favor. Valerian ships that had not been destroyed were surrendering one by one. The mighty fleet that had come to destroy New Sol was being systematically dismantled by forces they had never seen coming. "This is impossible," Princess Kala whispered. "Wait. We are the dominant species in this galaxy. We have conquered 100 worlds. How can a primitive race like yours defeat us?" As Jinho said quietly, "We are not as primitive as you believed. We have been fighting wars since before your species learned to use tools. Every defeat teaches us. Every loss makes us stronger. You saw our technology and assumed we were simple. You saw our emotions and thought we were weak. You were wrong about everything." The communication system activated again. Fleet Admiral No Suban's voice filled the observation deck. "Attention all Valerian vessels. This is your final warning. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction. You have 10 minutes to comply." Princess Kala closed her eyes, feeling the weight of total defeat. When she opened them again, she found Ginho watching her with something that might have been sympathy. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," he said, "you learn what it means to be prisoners of a species you tried to exterminate. Your Highness, unlike your people, we do not kill helpless enemies." Outside the ship, the last Valerian resistance was crumbling. The greatest fleet in their empire's history was surrendering too. Its forces they had dismissed as worthless animals. The hunt was over, and humanity had proven that sometimes the prey becomes the predator. The galaxy would never underestimate Earth's children again. The Valerian flagship shuddered as another human boarding pod attached to its hull. Princess Kala stood in the center of the observation deck, surrounded by her captors. The elegant crystal walls around her were now scarred with blast marks from the brief firefight that had secured the bridge. "Your fleet is finished," Captain Lee Harry said, checking the tactical display. 80% of your ships have surrendered. The rest are either destroyed or fleeing." Princess Kala said nothing. Her violet eyes stared at the screen, showing her broken fleet. Ships that had been the pride of the Valerian Empire now hung in space like wounded birds, their weapons powered down, and their crews waiting for human boarding parties. "I do not understand," she finally said, turning to look at Captain Lee Jinho. "You are just one species on one small planet. Did you plan something this complex?" Ginho stepped closer to her. The first time since their mock wedding, he looked at her as an equal rather than as a captor or victim, because he said quietly, "You never bothered to learn who we really are." Around them, the human soldiers maintained their positions but lowered their weapons slightly. The immediate danger was over. Now came the harder part of victory. "Tell me then," Princess Kala said with bitter curiosity. "Who are you really?" "My name is Lee Jinho," he began. "I was born on Earth in the city of Sol. When I was 12 years old, my grandfather taught me the old ways of fighting, not just with weapons, but with mind and spirit. He told me that a true warrior fights not for glory or conquest, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves." He paused, looking out at the stars visible through the crystal walls. When I was 20, I joined Earth Defense Force. I fought in the Battle of Luna Base when the first alien raiders came. I was there when we lost Europa Station. I held the line at Titan while civilians evacuated. Every battle taught me something new about war. Princess Kala found herself listening despite her anger. There was something in his voice she had never heard before. Not the careful submission of the past weeks, but the quiet authority of someone who had earned his position through blood and sacrifice. I have killed Valerians before, Ginho continued.
Us!
In the tunnels under Titan Station, in the zero-gravity combat around Jupiter's moons. But I never enjoyed it. Taking a life, even an enemy's life, is not something to celebrate. Then why do you fight? She asked. Because someone has to, he said simply. When the strong prey on the weak, someone must stand between them. When invaders come to destroy our homes, someone must defend them. That is what humans do. We protect each other. Captain Harry approached them, carrying a data pad with information from the captured Valerian computers. Brother, she said to Jinho, we have extracted their fleet records. This attack force represents about 30% of the total Valerian military. The victory here will cripple their ability to wage war for at least 5 years. Princess Kala's head snapped up. 30%. That is impossible. This fleet contained over 300 ships. Your empire is not as vast as you pretended, Harry replied. Most of your conquered worlds are held by local collaborators, not Valerian forces. Your actual military is much smaller than your propaganda claims. The revelation struck the princess like a physical blow. Everything she had believed about her people's strength was built on lies and exaggeration. But our technology, she protested. Our ships are superior to yours. In some ways, Jinho agreed. Your weapons are more powerful. Your shields are stronger. But you made the same mistake that every empire makes. You confused technological superiority with tactical superiority. He gestured toward the tactical display, which now showed human ships moving in perfect coordination to secure the captured Valerian vessels. You fight like you are dancing, he continued. Beautiful formations, elegant maneuvers, everything. Designed to show your superiority. But war is not a dance. War is survival. Humans have been surviving for a very long time. Princess Kala looked around the observation deck at the human soldiers. Each one stood ready, alert, professional. These were not savage animals or desperate primitives. These were warriors who understood their craft. You could have killed me, she said suddenly. During any of those dinner conversations, you could have struck. Why did you not? Because killing you would not have ended the war, Jinho replied. It would only have made you a martyr and strengthened your people's resolve. We needed to defeat your fleet, not just your person. And now we have a chance to end this conflict properly. Not with genocide or conquest, but with understanding. Princess Kala stared at him in confusion. Understanding? You tried to? Exterminate your species. Yes, Ginho said calmly. But that does not mean we have to exterminate yours. Before she could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Master Sergeant Lim Gyeonho's voice came over the communication system.
Oh!
Units, we have a problem. Princess Kala's personal guard has barricaded themselves in the armory. They are refusing to surrender and threatening to detonate the ship's power core. Princess Kala's expression changed instantly. Commander Velthane, she whispered, will never accept defeat. We'd rather die than be captured by humans. How many soldiers does he have? Captain Harry asked. 20 of my finest warriors, the princess replied. They are trained from birth to fight and die for the Empire. They will not listen to reason. Jinho was already moving toward the door. Then we will have to stop them. Wait, Princess Kala called out. You do not understand. They are elite guards. Each one is worth 10 normal soldiers. They have been trained in every form of combat known to our species. Ginho paused and looked back at her. For a moment, his carefully controlled expression slipped, and she saw something that made her breath catch. It was not fear or uncertainty. It was the cold, calculating look of someone who had faced impossible odds before and survived. Your Highness, he said quietly, you still do not understand what humans are capable of. He turned to his sister. Harry, get the princess to safety and coordinate with the fleet. This will not take long, Jinho, she said with concern. 20 elite guards in a fortified position. Even for you, that is dangerous. Not if I do this properly, he replied. Then he looked directly at Princess Calla. Would you like to see what your husband can really do? Before she could answer, he was gone, moving through the corridors with the fluid grace of someone born to fight. Master Sergeant Lim and 2 other soldiers followed him. Princess Calla could see in their faces that they were following a leader, not accompanying an equal. He is going to get himself killed, she said to Captain Harry. Harry smiled grimly. You do not know my brother very well. He has never lost a fight that mattered. On the security monitors, they watched Ginho approach. The sealed armory. 20 of the deadliest warriors in the Valerian Empire waited inside. Armed with weapons that could cut through tank armor and shields that could stop bullets, Princess Calla found herself holding her breath as she watched the human she had thought. Was her pet prepared to face impossible odds? She was about to learn why. Earth's enemies called Li Jinho the most dangerous man in the galaxy. Captain Li Jinho stood outside the sealed armory doors, listening to the sounds of movement within. 20 elite Valerian guards waited inside, the finest warriors their empire could produce. Each one was trained from childhood in the art of killing. Each one would rather die than surrender to a human. Behind him, Master Sergeant Lim Jianho and his 2 soldiers took positions, ready to provide support. But Gino knew this was something he had to do alone. Not because he was proud, but because it was the only way to end this without more bloodshed. Commander Velthane, he called through the door. I am Captain Li Jinho of Earth Defense Force. I wish to speak with you. A voice answered from inside, speaking in accented human language. I know who you are, animal. You're the one who corrupted our princess with your primitive tricks. We will not surrender to you. I am not asking you to surrender, Ginho replied calmly. I am offering you single combat. 1 warrior against 1 warrior. If you win, my forces will withdraw from this ship. If I win, you will release the hostages and come with us peacefully. Silence stretched for long moments. Then the voice came. Again, filled with suspicion. Why would you offer such terms? You have already won this battle, because Jinho said, honor matters. Even in war, especially in war, we must remember who we are. The armory doors hissed open. Commander Velthane stepped out, and Ginho understood immediately why the Valerians considered him their finest warrior. He was taller than most of his species, with silver skin marked by scars that told of 100 battles. His forearms moved, with perfect coordination, each one holding a different weapon. Plasma blade, neural disruptor, force shield, and a projectile gun that hummed with deadly energy. You are smaller than I expected, the commander said, looking down at Jinho with contempt. Princess Calla spoke of you as if you were some great fighter. I see only a soft animal who has grown fat on easy victories. He drew his combat knife, a simple piece of steel that had belonged to his grandfather. Compared to the aliens' advanced weapons, it looked almost primitive. That is your weapon? Commander Velthane laughed. A piece of sharpened metal? This will be over quickly. The Valerian attacked without warning, all 4 arms moving in a deadly dance. Plasma fire split the air where Ginho had been standing, but the human was no longer there. He had moved with the fluid grace his grandfather had taught him. Turning the enemy's strength against itself, the knife found the gap between armor plates. Slicing through the commander's shield generator, sparks flew as the device died, and Velthane stumbled backward in surprise. Impossible, he hissed. No primitive could move that fast. I am not primitive, Ginho said quietly, circling his opponent. I am experienced. The battle that followed was unlike anything the watching soldiers had ever seen. Commander Velthane fought with the refined technique of formal training, each movement perfect and beautiful. But Jinho fought with the practical skill of someone who had learned in the crucible of real combat, the Valerian's plasma blade. carved through the air where Jinho's head had been. The human dropped low, swept the alien's legs, and rolled away. Before the neural disruptor could find its target, every move was efficient, economical, designed not for show, but for survival. "Stand still and fight like a warrior," Velthane snarled, frustrated by his opponent's refusal to engage directly. "I am fighting like a warrior," Jinho replied, deflecting a shot with the flat of his blade. "Just not the kind you are used to." Dance continued for several minutes, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Commander Velthane was skilled, but he had learned to fight in training halls against opponents who followed the same rules he did. Jinho had learned to fight against enemies who wanted to kill him using any method possible. The end came suddenly. The Valerian overextended himself, trying to land a killing blow with his plasma blade. Jinho stepped inside his guard, trapped two of the alien's arms, and placed his knife against Velthane's throat. "Yield," Jinho said quietly. For a moment, the commander struggled, trying to bring his remaining weapons to bear. Then he felt the cold steel against his skin and understood that the fight was over. "I yield," he said, his voice filled with bitter defeat. Jinho stepped back and helped the alien to his feet. "You fought with honor, Commander. Your princess can be proud of your loyalty." Velthane stared at him in confusion. "You are not going to kill me?" "Why would I kill a defeated enemy who fought honorably?" Jinho asked. "You're protecting your comrades and following your duty. That makes you a soldier, not a criminal." The other Valerian guards emerged from the armory, laying down their weapons as their commander had promised. They looked at Jinho with expressions of confusion and grudging respect. 2 hours later, Princess Kala stood in the observation deck that had been converted into a temporary command center. Around her, human and Valerian officers worked together to coordinate the peaceful transfer of prisoners and the securing of the captured fleet. "I do not understand your people," she said to Captain Lee Jinho, who was reviewing reports from the other captured ships. "What do you not understand?" he asked, looking up from his work. "You could have executed us all. By the laws of war, you would have been justified. We came to destroy your colony. We tried to exterminate your species, yet you treat us with respect and kindness. Why?" Jinho set down his datapad and looked out at the stars. "Because killing you would not make us safer. It would only teach the galaxy that humans are as cruel as the enemies we fight. That is not the lesson we want to spread. But we are your enemies." "You were our enemies," he corrected. "Now you have the chance to become something else, Princess." Kala was quiet for a long moment. "What happens to me now, to my people?" "That depends on you," Jinho replied. "Earth has no interest in conquering the Valerian Empire. We want only to be left in peace, to raise our families, and explore the stars. If your people can accept that, we can find a way to coexist. If they cannot, then we will defend ourselves as we always have," Jinho said simply. "But we will not become the aggressors. That is not who we are." Over the following weeks, as the captured Valerian fleet was escorted to neutral space, Princess Kala found herself spending more and more time in conversations with her former captors. She learned about human culture, about their history of conflict and cooperation, about their dreams for the future. She discovered that Jinho had not been lying during their mock marriage. Humans did marry for love, not politics. They formed bonds based on respect and shared purpose rather than genetic compatibility and social advantage. "Would you teach me?" she asked him one evening as they stood watching the stars. "Teach you? What? Your fighting techniques? The way you move? The way you think in combat? I have never seen anything like it." Jinho smiled. "Those techniques come from the heart as much as the body. To learn them, you would have to understand what it means. To fight not for conquest, but for protection." "I think," Princess Kala said slowly, "I would like to learn that." The final scene took place 6 months later, at the first joint human-Valerian research station established in neutral space. Ambassador Song Murray cut the ribbon while representatives from both species watched. Princess Kala, now serving as the Valerian liaison, stood beside Captain Jinho as they watched former enemies working together to unlock the mysteries of the galaxy. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "The deception, The battle, all of it. I regret the lives that were, lost, Jinho replied. But I do not regret showing your people that humans are not the animals you believed us to be. We underestimated you completely, she admitted. Yes, he agreed, but now you know better. And knowing better means we can build something new together. Above them, the stars shone down on two species who had learned that the strongest bonds are forged not in conquest, but in mutual respect and shared purpose. The galaxy had gained not new conquerors, but new guardians. And Earth's children had proven once again that humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons or their technology, but in their ability to turn enemies into allies and hatred into hope. The hunt was over. The real journey was just beginning.